Oakridge, Michigan, never made the news. A town tucked between pine forests and quiet roads. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other's dogs by name. There were no secrets, or so it seemed, until the night of September 8, 2017. That Friday began like any other. Kids played ball in the park. The local diner served its usual cherry pie, and Sheriff hardly stopped by the gas station for coffee. By sunset, lights flickered on in windows, and families settled in for another uneventful night. But by midnight, Oakridge would become a town no one could explain. The blackout struck just before 12. Every light died at once. Street lamps, houses, traffic signals, even the blinking red tower beyond the woods. It wasn't a storm, the air was still, the sky cloudless, the moon nearly full. For a moment, Oakridge was swallowed by a darkness so complete that later, some said they could feel it pressing on their skin. The next morning, the sun rose on a town confused and shaken. People stepped outside, blinking, glancing at their watches, whispering to their neighbors. The first calls came into the sheriff's office at 6:05 a.m. The reports were nearly identical. I can't remember anything after midnight. My alarm didn't go off. I woke up in my car, parked on the other side of town. My front door was wide open, but nothing's missing. There's a strange smell outside, like ozone. It quickly became clear that the blackout was more than just a power failure. No one in Oakridge could account for the last 12 hours. No memories, no dreams, just a blank space where the night should have been. The only exception was a handful of children, all under 6, who woke up frightened, insisting there had been lights outside and strange people looking through the windows. Sheriff Hartley began his investigation at dawn. He started at the substation, then went house to house with Deputy Raines, asking the same questions. He found Mrs. Lowell, the school librarian, asleep at her kitchen table with all her silverware stacked in neat rows before her. He found John Harker, the mailman, standing on his porch in muddy boots, unable to recall how he got there. At the edge of town, the Hendersons' dog, Daisy, refused to leave the basement. The whole place seemed touched by an invisible hand. By mid-morning, power crews from the county arrived to check the lines. They found no evidence of a transformer fire, no tripped breakers, no downed trees. In fact, all the equipment looked untouched, as if the power had simply ceased to exist for 12 hours. Phones and cell towers, too, were dead during that window. Even battery clocks had stopped. The local clinic soon filled with people complaining of headaches, nausea, and a persistent ringing in their ears. Dr. Wyatt took note. Symptoms resemble mild concussion or shock, but there's no physical trauma. Many patients report anxiety, confusion, and a sense of missing time. As news spread, journalists from Lansing and Detroit began to circle, but most locals shut their doors. In Oakridge, the only thing more frightening than the blackout was the attention it brought. A few tried to piece together their own timelines. Some found small, unexplained marks on their arms or ankles. One man claimed to have a bruise shaped like a perfect circle behind his ear. Another, a retired lineman, found his wallet buried in the garden, wrapped in a dish towel. And then came the dashcam. 2 days after the blackout, a long-haul trucker named Ed Matheson pulled into the sheriff's office. Head past Oakridge on Route 14 that night, his dashcam running to record the empty highway. At first, the footage seemed uneventful. Black trees, yellow lines, the hum of tires on asphalt. But then, at exactly 12:11 a.m., the camera picked up a flicker of movement at the edge of the frame. For 13 minutes, the dashcam captured a sequence that would haunt Oakridge forever. Shapes moving in the trees, a wave of light, not headlights, but something brighter, almost silver-white, washing over the fields. The camera lens briefly fogged, as if hit by static electricity. Faint, rhythmic pulses appeared in the sky. 3, then 4, then gone. Near the end of the footage, a shadow crossed the road. Not an animal, not a person, but something elongated and indistinct. The audio crackled. In the last few seconds, the camera recorded a single, high-pitched tone, followed by the unmistakable sound of voices, layered, overlapping, speaking in a language one recognized. Ed played the tape for Sheriff Hartley, whose hands shook as he rewound the footage again and again. The sheriff called the county, then the state police. Soon, the dashcam was duplicated, sealed as evidence, and sent to Lansing for analysis. Oakridge tried to move on, but the days that followed the blackout were marked by oddities. Children complained of bad dreams, the lights, the tall men, the whispering in the field. An elderly man wandered out of the woods, barefoot, eyes wide. Had been missing 4 months. When asked where he'd been, he simply said, "With them in the light." The grocery store freezer defrosted, even though the power was out less than a night. Cats and dogs across town hid 4 days, or ran off into the woods, returning with patches of missing fur. People began to avoid talking about that night. A local preacher called it an act of God. Teenagers dared each other to sleep with their windows open. Some families installed extra locks, others moved away altogether. Yet, for all the strangeness, no one was hurt, nothing was stolen, and, aside from the missing time, life in Oakridge gradually resumed its slow, measured pace. But the dashcam tape remained. In private, Sheriff Hartley watched it every week, searching for new clues in the flicker and static. The state analysis team declared the footage inconclusive, noting signs of electromagnetic disturbance, possible artifacting, and unexplained audio overlays. No amount of digital enhancement could clarify the shadows or the voices. By autumn, a few investigators from out of town, researchers, amateur phenomena hunters, even a producer from a cable documentary series, tried to poke around. Most were met with silence. Hartley refused interviews. The tape was never made public, and the people of Oakridge retreated further into themselves. But the sense of unease never faded. Some nights, when the wind was right, residents claimed to hear a faint humming from the woods, or see a stutter of unnatural light behind the trees. Those who remembered nothing feared what they might remember if the blackout ever came again. By late October, the nights in Oakridge grew longer and colder. Halloween decorations appeared on porches, but few people seemed in the mood for ghost stories. The blackout had changed the town, leaving behind a fracture, something invisible but impossible to ignore. Dr. Wyatt at the local clinic kept track of lingering symptoms. He noticed more cases of insomnia, recurring headaches, and even sudden nosebleeds in otherwise healthy patients. A few people reported lost time in the middle of the day, blinking and realizing an hour had passed, with no memory of what they'd been doing. Others heard phantom noises, the distant sound of static, the crackle of a radio, or voices that vanished as soon as you tried to listen. Children became afraid of the dark. Some refused to sleep in their own beds. Their drawings, once full of houses and pets, now featured strange shapes, bright, looping lines, figures without faces, on what looked like doors floating in the sky. Teachers at the elementary school tried to explain it away as just a phase, but even they locked up early as dust settled in. The dashcam footage gained an almost mythic status. A few trusted adults were shown snippets, each reacting with discomfort. One deputy claimed the voices on the tape whispered his name. Another said he saw a familiar face in the static, only to have it vanish when he rewound the recording. A group of local teenagers, determined to uncover the truth, tried to find the exact spot where the blackout began. One night, they camped out on the edge of the woods, cell phones ready to record anything unusual. At 12:08 a.m., their phones all lost signal. The next morning, they woke up back in their own beds, their tents neatly packed away, none of them able to recall how they'd returned. Oakridge began to gather stories, old and new, about strange nights and missing hours. An elderly woman recalled a night in 1964 when the world went silent and her clock stopped 4 hours. A local handyman remembered bright lights over the reservoir one summer as a child. These stories, once dismissed as harmless folklore, now seemed like warnings that everyone had ignored. Sheriff Hartley grew more withdrawn. He spent hours in his office, listening to the dash cam audio with headphones, replaying the last few seconds again and again. The county sent in an external consultant, Dr. Evelyn Rowe, a specialist in unexplained phenomena. She met with families, examined medical reports, and reviewed the dashcam tape. Her final statement was brief: evidence of a high-energy event consistent with electromagnetic interference. Unexplained gaps in collective memory suggest psychological or neurological impact at the community level. Recommend long-term monitoring. Rumors spread that government officials had come through Oakridge late at night, asking questions, taking samples of soil, water, even collecting tree bark. Some believed it was all a cover-up. Others joked about UFOs. But beneath the nervous laughter, no one really wanted to know that winter was the coldest in memory. Residents kept their lights on all night, just in case. When the power flickered, which it did more than once, entire families gathered in the living room, waiting for it to pass. In January, the local newspaper published a single article, Oakridge, a town without a night. It referenced the blackout only briefly, quoting Sheriff Hartley, "What happened here remains unexplained. If you remember anything, or if you see anything strange, come forward." We're still listening, but no one came forward. Years passed. The dashcam tape was copied, stored in 3 places: the sheriff's office, the county archives, and a safe deposit box in Lansing. Ed Matheson, the trucker, returned once more, leaving a note at the station. "I still see those lights. Every time I drive past Oakridge, I feel like I'm being watched." Children who'd drawn the strange shapes eventually moved away. A few came back as adults and reported dreams of endless highways and voices calling their names from behind a curtain of white light. Every so often, a blackout would hit another small town nearby. None ever lasted as long or wiped out memory the same way, but every time, Oakridge held its breath. To this day, the official report on case 754 remains open. Theories persist. Some say it was a mass hallucination. Others blame government experiments or natural phenomena. But those who lived through the blackout know something real happened that night. Something came and went, unseen but not unfelt. On quiet nights, when the wind moves through the pine trees, people still look at their clocks, waiting for the lights to go out again, and for the darkness to take something more than just their memory. Oakridge keeps its secret. The dashcam tape, locked away, is the only true witness to a night that no one remembers, but no one can forget.